Hello, my dear Scuttlebutt listeners. I am William, and I'm here today with Vic, and we're going to try something a little different today on this episode of Scuttlebutt. We've noticed that if you've noticed, we've been posting a lot of videos on our professional development page, especially with our battle studies packages, to have a more holistic, well-rounded approach to studying. But we really haven't gone in depth in how to actually use videos for educational purposes, how to look at them critically, and to get the best information you can from them. So for this episode, Vic and I watched the same film, and I'm going to lead a discussion with him to sort of provide an example of how to reflect and understand what was valuable, what was invaluable from the films that you have watched. So
yeah, this is interesting because this is almost like I'm being interviewed for a second time. So you've roped me into this yet again, being on this side of the microphone.
It's less of an interview; it's more of a test. So you actually paid attention.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is good. I'm not a tester.
Oh, yeah, that's what
I'm more of a
say.
reps and sets guy.
Yeah, reps and sets. All right. Well, so for the purposes of this, we'll post the YouTube link on our Scuttlebutt description. But we watched a video titled "The United States Marine Corps, 1775 through 1916," which is a part of a series known as A History of Heroes.
Yeah, we really stepped out of our comfort zone with this video.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you did. But so the film was released in 2020, and it was part of a greater series called The United States Military, A History for Heroes, of which 2 episodes were broken down for the United States Marine Corps, of which we watched the first segment, 1775 through 1916. So Vic, just to start off, give us your Amazon review of this film. Something like, you've watched the movie, you either liked it or hate it, and you just want to go on Amazon, first of all, give it 1 to 5 stars, and then just explain why.
Okay, so on a rating scale, I would probably give it 3.5 to 4. And for one, I just caveat that I'm a tough grader, but then 2, I did enjoy it. I legitimately enjoyed it. Extremely informative. There were aspects of Marine Corps history that he gets into, like really finite details that I wasn't aware of. I thought contextually provided a very good, really a deep dive into a lot of the specifics of early Marine Corps history, which I thought was really valuable. From an entertainment standpoint, though, it was a bit dry. It reminded me a lot of when my history teacher didn't feel like teaching and would just turn on a video and you would just watch. And so it'd be really easy to just sort of miss a lot of the nuance and specifics of it because it is a bit dry. It is very high on the education content and not quite as much on the histotainment aspect as Colonel Woodbridge likes to say.
So let's go a little bit deeper. So what specifically did you learn from watching this film?
Oh gosh, there was a ton. Specifically some of the Marine Corps actions during the Revolutionary War I thought was really interesting. I think for Marine Corps fanboys and those of us who got a lot of our Marine Corps history through the recruit depots or OCS, we know sort of the big wave tops like, New Providence Island, for example. There's a lot that went into it that I didn't know, that preceded that operation, why that wasn't the primary objective initially, and, them getting frozen in the harbor, they're going out on the secret mission. I thought that was really fascinating. I thought his breakdown of Derna, the Battle of Derna, like we all know, for those of us, understand sort of the easy history of like the Mamluk sword and things, but not all of the stuff that sort of led up to that. I thought it was really interesting. His exploration of our war against piracy. I think it was after the Civil War. Yeah, so there was a ton. There really wasn't a single thing that went in there where I felt like I knew all the information, and he was just sort of telling me things I didn't know. If you're paying attention, you're going to learn a ton. And a lot of those specifics I thought were really good.
So stylistically, what did you feel that the film did well to help actually teach you this information?
Just having it really, from I guess from a storyboarding standpoint, it flowed really well. There wasn't any spots in there. Obviously, I think it maybe the format lends itself to that because it just follows sort of the Marine Corps history chronologically. But I think where he did more, where there was a lot of fruit in his labors was that same thing, like I was saying before, like getting into like the real details and specifics of each of the things rather than just highlighting each of the actions and campaigns.
So finally, to end this like sort of initial overview Amazon review, what did the film do poorly? And on top of that,
yeah,
what could it have done to improve that?
Sure. So one of the things I was thinking is and I know there's obviously budgetary things, so this is very nitpicky, and I admit that. But like I thought some of the B-roll of just having sort of filming of reenactors was a bit. The production value wasn't what we're used to seeing, especially a lot of modern sort of documentaries. I would have liked to have seen more. I thought that where it was really good in detail and really good in following chronologically, it didn't necessarily tie in as a narrative. And again, that may not have even been his objective at all. So this might be kind of nitpicky. He may have tried to completely avoid presenting it in a narrative style. And another thing I find successful with documentaries that wasn't here was they had, the voice acting to reading the letters, which I thought was I don't want to say good choice because this is a critique, but it did break things up. I thought would have been more effective would have been to rather than necessarily reading verbatim these letters and journal entries and things, would be to bring in historians or experts in these fields and then having them, sort of discuss. Because I think that adds to the narrative aspect of it too, where it's almost like an interview of this expert sort of contextualizing the things that are being said in the documentary. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
So congrats, you passed the first part of your
Yay!
test.
Nice.
So in as a reward, I will also follow through and do my assessment.
Yes, please do.
So my Amazon review, I lay very similar to you. I give the film a 3.5 out of 5. What it did was it painted very well with broad strokes. It went into intimate details a lot with the Marine Corps history and esprit de corps to understand why certain traditions existed. And it goes into depth into the birth of the organization, which for a lot of Marines, I feel is like in the murkier period, the further back you go. And then it also brings to light a lot of where Marines were fighting in greater conflicts as well.
One other thing I thought was cool was I didn't realize there was a second tavern that Samuel Nichols was recruiting from. I'd always heard Ton Tavern, but he mentions another one that was like further up north somewhere else. Did I
Well, they go in because Ton Taverns is where like I think members of the Congress met, and then I think they did recruitment like spread throughout multiple. But so what did I learn? Like I said, the film painted with broad strokes. I think some of the most unique things I picked up was also like the history of the Marine Corps band.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Which was, the band is such iconic for the Marine Corps, but I learned a lot from there, so it was interesting. What did the film do well that I liked? For the most part, they used great use of historical images when they could and was applicable. What did the film do poorly was sometimes some of the B-roll didn't match up. Like, for instance, like the Seminole Indians looked nothing like the Plains Indians.
Right.
Why were they using that? But otherwise, for a film that paints with broad strokes, I think it was very well and deserves at least 3.5 stars. So going from here, let's go a little bit deeper, Vic. I actually have this information before me, so I'm gonna relate it to you. But who created the film and was their bias? Whenever you're watching any documentary, there's always an angle. There is always an argument, and they're trying to leave you feeling a certain way. So part of that is going to be reflected on who created the film and such as that. So the director of this film was a man by the name of Kevin Hirschberger. He attended the Virginia Military Institute, graduating in 1995, majoring in international studies and history. He served as a military intelligence officer in the United States Army for 8 years. He's also the president of Lionheart Film Works, which is also the YouTube page that we pulled this from. And it's a history channel with an emphasis on military history as a primary. If you look at the playlist, you'll see. And he's also been involved with a variety of other films as a director or producer or consultant for such as Field of Lost Shoes, which covers the Battle of Newmarket, Wicked Springs, which covers the Battle of the Wilderness, and documentary series such as Legends and Lies, The Real West, The Civil War, The Patriots, America, Fact First Fiction, The American Revolution, et cetera, et cetera. So this is primarily someone who not only served in a prestigious United States military school, but also studied history and then went on to become a member of the service as well, to then go forth and dedicate his life to American history. So how do you think, based on this information, Vic, what do you think his angle is? What is his bias? What is he bringing into this film with him as a director?
Well, based on the title, History of Heroes, I think that there's definitely a slant towards a positive view of, U.S. fighting forces, uniformed services, and the campaigns which we have all participated in. To that extent, then maybe some of the analyses weren't as critical as maybe they could have been. I feel like these are more along the lines of maybe less of an academic exploration and more of a I don't want to say propaganda, because it's definitely not that, but I think it definitely has the intention of painting our heroes in a positive light.
Well, you touched on a lot of great points, Fix. I mean, with a lot of veterans, as we talk to and experience, there's a decent amount who go, I served, I just want to put the past behind me. And there's also a lot who, hell yeah, I served. It's my life. I have all these tattoos on me.
Right. And the T-shirts. Yeah.
This is the pinnacle of my human existence. So between those, different extremes, he definitely leans towards the latter. He's definitely wants to promote the idea that, again, as the subtitle for the series, a history of heroes. And so therefore he kind of goes into a like you said, less critical. How does that influence his work? Well, he leaves out maybe some things of the Marine Corps' less proud moments, such as the Spanish-American War in the Philippines or the Banana War.
Glazed over a lot of that. Yeah, absolutely. And I remember my wife was sort of in the background of us watching this, and when he started going through the list, she's like, "Oh, that's a lot of campaigns against indigenous people."
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we're a bit of a colonial force there early on. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and again, this is old history, but it definitely reflects upon how a lot of people may be less inclined to support the armed forces intrinsically. They would argue, why is this being left out? Why is this being glazed over? Now, part of the issue is, the Marine Corps has always been a reflection of American society.
Yeah.
So it's not to say, the Marines were worse.
Right. Well, we're not out there picking fights. Yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean, they did where their nation called them,
Yeah.
and their nation maybe called them to some less than stellar
And in fairness,
occasions.
too, when you're looking at, and as you know, as a, documentarian, you're under time constraint. If you're going to sort of, like you said, paint, if you're going for a 2-part series of Marine Corps history, you're very limited on the things that you can truly explore. I mean, what they were talking about as far as, the Spanish-American War and the Banana Wars in particular, I mean, that could be an entire series. So, if you're going to cover, almost 150 years of Marine Corps history, there are some things that are going to have to get glazed over.
Exactly. I mean, that was also one of my biggest complaints about the film, that because it paints with such broad strokes, you miss out on some really cool details. Like Civil War buff over here, like the Civil War section where they just talk about First Manassas and then the fighting at Jury's Bluff. it's like, well, what about all the other cool stuff that happened?
Mhm.
Like an amphibious landing tried to be conducted at Fort Sumter
Yeah.
or Fort Fisher or throughout the Carolinas. You know, this is supposed, I guess, to open doors to interest rather than cover every interest.
Sure.
Which is also ultimately, I feel, the idea of documentaries in the first place. You can obviously get much more information from reading a book, but this is to sort of open your interest in a way that's presentable, more enjoyable. Unfortunately, as much as I enjoy reading books, I also enjoy the visual aspect and the experience of watching a film as well. And unfortunately, I feel like most people in this generation, day and age, lean towards preferring films to
multimedia.
Books. But this idea is supposed to open your doors of interest, which goes into my next question. So, Vic, who do you believe the intended audience is, and how was the film made? Sorry, how was the film made to influence the intended audience?
Well, at the risk of trying to speak authoritatively about someone else's perspective. My feeling, it's twofold. I think that they're going for, like you said, sort of the red hatters, if you will, who the Marine Corps was everything for them and continues to be. And so this is a good way of sort of rejuvenating that esprit de corps. Granted, he's in the Army, but I think the series is painting anybody who's ever worn the uniform is trying to appeal to their esprit de corps, their pride in their service, which is a good thing. This other group, I think, is probably a younger audience, and along the lines of what you're saying, it's an intro. It's the gateway into sparking intellectual curiosity for future historians to then start to take deeper dives into some of these other aspects of U.S. military history.
Yeah, I agree with you to a broad extent. Just because, again, like as you said, the title of the series, A History of Heroes, already aiming towards someone who has maybe a general interest in military history and would see a title such as A History of Heroes and be inclined to view that as something that they'd be interested in learning. You're not going to get maybe a major anti-war activist to go ahead and look at this. It's going to be someone who's already inclined to support the United States military broadly and then military history specifically or secondary to that. And this almost comes off as a film you'd maybe see in a museum, for instance. Like you're about to go in and see all these exhibits. You may have some prior knowledge of the museum you're about to go see. You may have some understanding, but this one sort of it clarifies, it makes an established history so that you go into this museum then knowing the backstory behind it, and then you get to explore the exhibits with more context behind it.
Yeah.
So it comes off as maybe not academic because it's not necessarily making an argument about the Marine Corps and its history, even though you could potentially argue it is. By presenting it in a positive light, you could argue that it's trying to present the Marine Corps positively.
Yeah, because like you were saying, like it doesn't give where it stops in its context is why the U.S. was involved in these campaigns even to begin with. It just kind of just sets the tone that the Marines were here and then this was what happened. You don't have the geopolitical landscape that follows along with it because that's not the intent, I think, of the documentary.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, its argument is essentially just to present the history of the Marine Corps. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't examine even the good or bad critically. It's trying to just show you here's what's happened in time and place. So how was this, going back to the second question, how was this film made to influence the intended audience? The intended audience is someone who has maybe a baseline interest in history, maybe a baseline interest in Marine Corps history, or a baseline interest in military history. What are they supposed to come away from this, having watched the film?
I would think, that spark of it would, sort of galvanize that interest into further study. I don't think this. My impression is that this documentary isn't made to be the end all be all. Like once you see that, like done and done. I know everything now about the Marine Corps from 1775 to 1916. I think it's supposed to spark that interest and to encourage a deeper dive into some of these things.
Awesome. So going forward, what type of Marine would you recommend watch this film?
Oh, well, so anybody who has ever been to the Marine Corps Museum or wants to go to the Marine Corps Museum to use, what you're talking about as far as like a museum piece, I think that's a great point. I hadn't considered that. I think it would be really beneficial for someone who either is about to go to the Marine Corps Museum or wants to go, has been. This is a good sort of accompanying piece to that. And then for police, those young Americans who are thinking about raising their right hand or who are in the delayed entry program and want to get a better feel than what a sort of a history textbook will give you. And also for those parents now who are wondering, like, what did my kid just get himself into? This definitely, I think, will not just give you some really good details about what the Marine Corps has done throughout American history, but also give you that sense of, well, this is more than just service. Like even a 4-year commitment of just someone who is going to do a single tour in the Marine Corps will come away with a sense of being part of something bigger than themselves.
All right, well, Vic, congrats. You passed the
All
the
right,
exam
man. I'm dropping the microphone. I'm out.
with flying colors. So for our audience,
I don't know. What do you think? Was that your impression? I mean, being that you grew up in a Marine family, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think for like most Marines who've been through it, I mean, you might pick up a few new facts here and there, but this is definitely, I would recommend to police as well as a gateway to maybe understanding what you're getting into and what, like the history of the Marine Corps didn't start with like, when we have photographs and footage of World War II. It's much more longer and illustrious than that. And the Marines throughout its history have been asked by this country to do a wide variety of tasks throughout its long illustrious history, and I imagine those variety of tasks is only going to enlarge going forward. So knowing where you came from can help you understand the trajectory of where you might go. Mm-hmm. And yes, and then if you're going to the Marine, if you're are inclined to learn more about the Marine Corps, go to the Marine Corps Museum. This would be a great step one would be to go here, and then there's obviously, which we might touch on later, other documentary films to learn more in-depth details of Marine Corps history as well. But anyway, so for our audience, I hope you enjoyed this little back and forth segment. But these questions are something that you should ask yourself every time you watch a documentary, especially some of the ones that we post on our battle studies packages, to look at them critically and figure out how you can best use them as a teaching tool for yourself. And this is a process you can do with any of your other friends or compadres, that you can watch a film together and then have an intellectual discussion to figure out what can you take away and how can this help you succeed going forward.
Sure, I think too. Like when you look at these things, especially as they're taking on this journey chronologically, I think one thing to look at as well, and William, you've mentioned this on a number of other podcasts. That axiom about history rhyming. Is that where are we seeing sort of repeated themes, employment techniques, innovation, especially as we're going forward, 50, Force Design 2030, we're back into great power competition. We haven't seen the second video yet, so that may touch on some of that. But yeah, definitely look and see, even divested of maybe the historical context, from a Marine Corps employment standpoint, where are we seeing echoes from what we've already done?
Yeah, exactly. So again, we hope you enjoy this discussion. We definitely recommend you check out the film and also its sequel, as well as the entire YouTube page. There's a lot of good content on there from a variety of documentarians that does some pretty good military history. So we'll post that on the video description for you to check out. And if you have any comments or recommendations of films that you would like, or documentaries that you would like Vic and I to parse through, we'd happily continue with that.
Awesome.
So in terms of looking towards the future, Vic, as we always like to do, what we got coming up with the Marine Corps Association that you and I want to post out there?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. Obviously the Gazette is, I think General Smith just I was looking on. I think it was Lieutenant Colonel Berg's LinkedIn had posted something that General Smith had mentioned about the going full auto on your ideas gun. Continue to contribute. And contribution isn't always writing and submitting something. Like, contribute by engaging in the conversation, whether it's on social media, whether it's at the barbershop or whatever. But
or whether it's on the Marine Corps Gazette LinkedIn
page. Yes,
oh yeah,
absolutely.
baby.
But yeah, hit the socials. But just read up on this stuff. Content coming out of Leatherneck and Gazette. Really, we've got some great contributions. Really well-written articles, and some really great ideas coming out of there. We've also got new content coming up on the webpage. And speaking of poolies coming down the pike, we should have a nice little buffet for new Marines and families to participate in. Yeah. Oh, and then MCA Films, baby. As we're talking about documentaries, MCA Films is really on the come up.
It's on the come up. Yeah. Look forward to some of our own feature films. I don't know if feature might be the right or wrong word, but we're gonna have some pretty cool stuff coming out in 2024. Yeah. So keep on tabs, and we'll love your feedback. We're trying to pull the Marine Corps Association's YouTube channel into the late 2020s. So let's make the future happen now, baby.
That's right. I love it.
All right. Well, anyways, thanks for tuning in on this brief episode of Marine Corps Association Scuttlebutt. I'm William. Vic's here.
Hey.
And we thank you for your time and appreciate your support, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. I am William Truding, but you've also heard the voices or contributions of Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Lichman, retired Frazier. The opinions expressed in this episode do not reflect the official stance of the Marine Corps, DoD, or Marine Corps Association.